Welcome to a new episode of my show. In this episode, I'll be getting deeper into the diff function and trying to break down what happens inside it. So this gets assigned first and this gets assigned next. But at the end of it, these two have the same value, right? Is new equals true and dirty is true. Cool. I'm assuming this underscore dirty keeps track of re-renders or just renders maybe. So our component object has now gained a number of new parameters. I know for sure that our component object has props as constructor, which is equal to type of the element. It has render function. Cool, that makes sense. It has props. It's an object. It has state, which is an object. It has it has context, which is an object, because here it's provider context of this. I'm assuming it's an object. Okay, maybe object. Should be an object, right? Even if it is a vnode is an object, like we know. So underscore context. There seems to be a subtle difference between what context has and what underscore context has. Yeah, I don't know what's the consequence of that. Maybe it's important, maybe it's not. So underscore dirty is a boolean. Underscore render callbacks. When do these get called? I don't know. Render callbacks is an array. I'm assuming of functions since it's called callbacks. So if I were to write pseudocode for the function diff, if I were to write pseudocode, if constructor, if if not valid. Yeah, they could have checked for valid element, right? Is valid element does this only. Sorry, I just want to check this. Where is that? Is valid element was inside create element, is it? Yeah, so is valid element checks for the same thing, right? So this could have been an is valid element check. So this could say is valid element of new vnode. If not is valid, sorry, if not is valid element of new vnode, then return null. If not valid element, then bail. Cool. We get that. If external diff function, use that. Yeah. There's an if condition here. So next what it does is if fn component, right? If it's a function component, then it branches off into doing some stuff. Else if class component, this is what I'm assuming is happening, it branches off to do other stuff. And we had a look at, what did we have a look at? So if it is this, yep, we are now So this, in case of this, it calls diff element nodes. Again, if external diff, I think again it is that. Does it? What does this mean? Option dot diff. This options object is a bigger and bigger mystery for me. Options object. It has it can have. I remember in render it could have underscore root. What is that? It can have underscore diff. What is that? It can have it can have underscore diff here. It can have diff. What is that? I don't know. But what it actually has is catch error. Definitely it has catch error. That's being defined. Catch error gets defined directly here, right? Catch error, they import it from there and then define and export options. So that part is clear to me. But what are these other stuff? I don't know. I don't know what they do. I don't know if it's important. It doesn't seem to be, because right now at least we don't have options there. Okay, so now all we care about is this part, right? So this is the part we're focusing on right now. So this part, what happens is a bunch of variables. I'm not going to include that. There is initialize provider, which is same as cctx. It is actually the same as cctx. If there's no provider, okay, let's differentiate that, right? So initialize cctx, which is equal to provider or context. That comes from the as part of the arguments here. Okay, so is again there is a branch in here if component already present, then yeah, if component already present, I think that means that is this a re-render, right? Component can already be present if it's been created and it's a render that's happening the next time. That's when it needs to calculate the diff again, right? If component re-rendering is basically what they want to look at, I think. Just get it from old vnode, right? Cool. So initialize c equals old node dot underscore component. So but if it's not, else means it is first render. So first render, what happens is we again check if it has a render function or not, which is kind of funny to me. So what? So then what is this doing? If it's a function, then do this. If this is a function, so we know for a fact that new type is function, right? What? But we check here again if it has the render method or not. So if it does not, if it has the render method, then we instantiate. If it does not have the render method, then we instantiate the component. Yeah, this is a bit unclear to me. No, I don't think this is checking the type that the user has defined. This is checking if it's an internal. I'm confused. What is this checking? If new type, it's a function. What is this checking? New type dot prototype dot render. Yeah, I'm a little confused here. So I'm just gonna say C equals create component. Okay. Somehow we create a component. Then we set C dot constructor equals new type is equal to type that we know now, and yeah, I'm really not sure. So C dot render, which makes sense. So then if there is provider, then subscribe to this component that we have now created. C dot props equals new props. So set the new prop values that have changed. This is relevant, I guess. This is definitely relevant. Then if not C dot state, then C dot state you have to create, of course, if it doesn't have state. But I'm thinking it will not have state because this is the first render of this thingy, and that's what we checked somewhere here. Wait, we checked for function component, and then we checked for if it's already present. If not, we are creating. This seems redundant to me. What does it mean? Ah, nice. So that's all happens here. This if is just that much. Sorry, I got my indentation mixed up. Okay. So it's created one, it's either using the old one or it's created a new one. If there's a provider, it subscribes to that component, and then all the new props are set in. If the state is not present, the state is initialized. Then we have the confusing part, to me at least. Context is set, then underscore context is also set, and underscore dirty equals true. So that means when is dirty equal to false? So it's been touched, it's dirty. Okay, if you say so. And underscore render callbacks equals empty. What if they were present before? Yeah, I'm not sure. So set all of this stuff. Basically, this is the whole component setup here. If the component is, yeah, so the component has to be updated for every render, I suppose, every time you do the diff, and that's what it's doing here. Hey, wait, I'm confused now. So if component re-rendering in this, else yeah, I was right in the beginning. Oh my god, this is so confusing. Yeah, if there's a component that's re-rendering, so this check is a waste of line. Why is this check needed? When will it have state already? Will we initialize the component with state? Does any of this, like, oh, what if the constructor initialized it with state, right? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So if it's re-rendering, then we use the old component. If it's the first render, then we create a whole new component. Cool, I got that. And important thing to note is we are now trying to understand what the shape of the component object looks like. Yeah, so if it is re-rendering, it goes in here. Cool, I got it. Okay. So this is how much we've understood till now. I have understood till now. I hope you have understood it too. So let's go next. So there's a whole part here, whole block of code that invokes get derived state from props. Nice. And then it invokes pre-render lifecycle methods. Should component will receive props, should component update, component will update, component did update. What is the render happening? It pushes to commit queue here. That technically means it's called the render, I guess. See, options can have underscore render as well. So what? Who gives this stuff to options? The actual render is called here. I think these things are just pushed. Yeah, so it does. Component will receive props, should component update, component will update. I think React has deprecated a few of these. Yeah, I'm not sure we still have will update and will receive props. Yeah. If it is doing get derived state from props, it's not doing will receive props. Okay, so will update should still be there. And then it pushes this into render callbacks. Cool. The render callbacks are stuff that happen after render. I'm not sure why it has to push it in so early. Oh yeah, because it needs old props and old states. That makes perfect sense. Okay, we'll go through this again, but I'm just trying to get a feel for it. So then it actually does the render. Then the stuff gets child context stuff, then get snapshot before update, and then it diffs its children. Then again pushes it to commit queue. I don't know, it pushed it to the commit queue once here. If the render callbacks had something, okay. Or something, any error, it puts it into this and forces null. Okay. And that's the diff function. Of course, we still have to get into the diff children and diff element nodes. Diff element nodes looks like... looks interesting. Dangerously set. Props. Again, diff children. So where is diff children? So diff children comes in diff children.js. Diff children has a bunch of stuff. Child array. And then it calls diff again. That's what, so that's the recursion part. I just wanted to look at where the actual recursion would happen.